So this will be a live coding section, and we are going to be starting immediately. I'm not going to be spending time to be explaining anything about this because I already explained it right here in my website. All the explanation is very clear. This will be a live coding section, step by step, with all the pieces of code you need and all the procedure you need laid out here on my website. You can find the link to this website in the description box below this video. And also, if you've not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button below so that you don't miss out an update. So we are going to be learning about Axon Framework, Axon Server, Axon Hub, Vaadin for UI, and we're also going to be learning about a bit of Kotlin, Kubernetes later on, and we are going to be talking about Spring Profiles. So let's go ahead to build an application using CQRS and event sourcing. And part one, we're going to set up the project in IntelliJ right now. So I'm going to click on create new project. Now I'm going to try to follow the procedure strictly without skipping any part of it, and that is the way to do it. So just follow along, and it's going to be really clear. If you have any challenges following, please let me know in a comment box, and the comment box below this video. Just write what challenge you have. So the first part says create a project in IntelliJ. And that is what I'm doing now, and I'm going to say next, and I'm going to select Kotlin. That is very important because Kotlin helps you to write concise classes that are just one line. It can make life very easy for writing codes. I'm going to call this project, first the group ID is going to be, let me just move a little closer. The group ID is going to be com.Kyneton the genius, and you can use the same, or you can use any other one you feel like using. And the artifact ID, let's call it GC. So we are going to be creating a gift card application, so more like a gift card or a promo card. You issue this gift card, you can go to the supermarket, redeem it, and then it has some remaining balance, and you keep redeeming it until you've exhausted. So you issue a new gift card, it has a given value, and then when you redeem it, you use up some of this value, and just like that. So as we build this application, it's going to be clearer and clearer as we go. This has been done in a webinar before now, but no clear explanation. So what I'm offering you now is step-by-step explanation of all the lines of code, of all the bits of methods we are going to be using. So let's call it GC for gift card, and our project name is GC as well, and it's going to be for Axon Framework, and com.Kyneton the genius.gc. Alright, so hope is clear so far. So I'm going to just check everything should be fine. The package is GC. I'm going to click on next, and I'm going to select. Now this is also important. We need to select H2 for an in-memory database storage. That's H2, and we also need Vaadin for UI. Vaadin for the UI. Now Vaadin is very interesting to use, and also JPA for data persistence. I'm going to just select JPA right here, as you can see. So let me just check. So I have, okay, I need to select JPA. So select it and just click on next. So I have 3 items. Any other thing I'm missing out, I'm going to add it by getting it from our MVN repository online. So I'm going to just click on next, and everything should be fine. I'm going to click on finish. All right. So it's going to build this project for us and download all the necessary jars to the class part. So I'm going to kind of minimize this, so I should be able to see the procedure side by side with the project window I'm building. So where are we at this point? Okay, so this is where we are, step 4. So here we are now going to create 3 packages. Now these 3 packages are command, query, and GUI. So these are the 3 different packages required. So the first one is command. For sure, command query responsibility segregation is the key. You need to separate the commands and the queries, and later on we are going to split this into 3 microservices that correspond to each of these 3 packages we are going to be creating right now. So I'm going to just close up these, make some room here. Again, as we are waiting for it, we are going to, okay, let's just create the 3 packages. So I'm going to click on this src main Kotlin, and I'm going to come here and right click and just say new package, and it's going to be command commands, and the second one is going to be queries, and the last one is going to be GUI, so to represent the GUI part of the application. So I'm going to call it GUI. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to download and test Axon Server. So this is very easy to do. So download Axon Server. So from this link, download it. It comes down as a zip file. So you can see it downloads right here. Unzip it and then open your command prompt and navigate to where you have the gift card unzipped. So I'm going to run my command prompt as administrator. So this is my command prompt. I'm going to simply say cd to drive D, and I have my Axon Server somewhere in Axon Server, and it's going to be okay. So let me just get here first. dir. So the Axon Server is located inside Axon Server 4.2.2. So I'm going to say cd Axon Server dash 4.2.2, and I'm going to simply say java -jar Axon server.jar. So this is going to start up the Axon Server so that we could actually see the Axon dashboard. Axon dashboard gives us insight to how our application is doing. So it starts up, as you can see, it's starting up right now, and the procedure is here for you, and this is the Axon dashboard right here. So at this point, we can actually visit the Axon dashboard. Once the server starts up completely, we can visit the Axon dashboard. So let me just go to HTTP. By default, it runs on port 8024, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to go to localhost. I'm going to go to port 8024, and hopefully the Axon dashboard is going to show up. So it seems it's still starting up. Okay, so it takes a while. So meanwhile, let's move on to part 2. We've completed part 1. So part 2 has to do with, we are going to modify the pom.xml to add all the necessary dependencies we need. So I've gone to part 2. So this is part 2, modify the pom.xml. So in part 1, we set up the project, created the 3 packages that represent different microservices at the end of the day. And at this point, we are going to add the necessary plugin that will help us work with both Kotlin and Java in a Maven project. And we're also going to be adding the Axon dependency as well. So now if we go back to the Axon dashboard and I'm going to refresh this page, you can see that Axon dashboard shows up right now. And this is how it shows up. Now, for now, there's no instance of our application running, so that is fine. So let's just go to... let's check the procedure so that we don't mix up anything. So we need this plugin. Since our project is a mix of Kotlin and Java, we need to add the necessary plugin to make it work together, Kotlin and Java. So there is a plugin. Just copy it out and paste it in your pom.xml in the plugin section. So I've copied it, and I'm going to go to the pom.xml, and I'm going to just make room here. And I'm going to go down to the plugin section, and you can see plugin/plugin. I'm going to just paste it right here. So right here, yeah, just paste it somewhere right here, and you should have everything okay. So we have this Kotlin. So there is also another instruction that we have these properties. The Java version is 1.8. That is fine. We also need to add Axon version 4.2. So let's scroll up a bit. So in these properties, we need Kotlin version or 1.3.50. So it's not 6.1 but 0.50. And we need Vedin version 8.4.1. Vedin is going to be 8.4.1. And the Axon server version is going to be 4.2. So let me just put the Axon server version right here in the properties section. And we now need to add the Axon dependency. Actually, you can actually copy the dependency from here, or you can actually go to MVN repository, mvnrepository.com, and then look for the Axon dependency, Axon starter. So you can actually get Axon startup from here. So sometimes it takes some time, so that's why I already have it copied out for you. So now you can now scroll down to, it should be this Axon Framework support or something. So yeah, Axon Boot Spring Boot Starter. So that is what you have. So I already copied it from here. So I'm going to just paste it in the dependencies section right here. So I'm going to just paste it right here. And I think everything should be fine. And I'm going to click on this enable auto import so that when you make a change in your pom.xml, it automatically imports the changes you made. Alright, so we have the complete pom.xml and that should be fine. Yeah, everything should be fine. So we are going to be moving on to part 3. Let's now set up the commands, the event, and the aggregates. So commands are expressions of commands. What are commands? Commands are operations that actually change something in the data store. So you issue a command, you make a change, it makes a change in the data store. Queries are requests for data, and events is indication that a command have executed. So I think I explained this. I don't really remember. So I'm not going to be making all this explanation because I expect you to read it right here, because this is a coding section. I've already made this lesson before, but this I want it to be clearly explained and in terms of the codes I'm writing. So I'm not actually going to be explaining the concepts for you at this point. So step 1 says add a Kotlin file in the command section. So I'm going to go here and click on Kotlin file, and I'm going to name it API. So the core API for this application will contain commands, events, and queries. So I'm going to add a Kotlin file, which I already did. And we are going to be adding the commands and the events. So what are commands for a gift card? You have to issue a gift card. When you issue a new gift card, and you also need to you should be able to redeem a gift card. So we have two commands, issue command and redeem command, and these two commands must also correspond to events, because we say that when a command occurs, then an event should be notified or should be triggered. So let's add it as a data class, and it's going to be issue command, issue command, yeah. So I'm going to be say val id string. So val makes it that these attributes are final attributes, and I'm going to say val amount in the card should be integer, and that is fine. So this is the issue command. So again, let me just continue with the next one. So the next one is data class should be redeem command, and it's also going to be having an ID of string, and also going to have an amount to be redeemed, integer this time. So these are the commands, and we also need the events. So the commands are about the same like the events, only that the name have to be different. Okay, so let me just copy and paste right here. So just copy and paste. Right, so this is going to be redeemed command. So the redeemed events are actually past tense, because we are notifying that an event have occurred. So this is going to be redeemed event. Okay. So, and this is going to be issued event. Okay. So when you issue a command, you need to specify the aggregate that is targeted when this command is issued. So we are going to specify a target aggregate identifier. Okay, so again, when you have the redeemed command as well, you need to specify a target aggregate. Sorry for this. And okay, so this is what we have. So we are going to now proceed to create the aggregate. Aggregate is simply a class, but it's defined as a group of entities that are kept in a consistent state. So basically, our gift card class represents the aggregate. So in a normal MVC application, we say a class or the entity, but here we say aggregate is some kind of a complex, a composite entity. That's the language of Axon or CQRS. So we are going to go to again, there is a definition of the aggregate. We are going to go to create in the commands. We are going to create the gift card. So I'm going to right click and say new Java class, and I'm going to call it gift card. So this is going to represent a gift card entity. So I'm going to enter. So it looks like a normal Peugeot, only that a gift card is now an aggregate and is going to respond to commands, and also is going to it should be able to also issue events as well. So, and a gift card is going to have an ID. So I'm going to say integer ID, so a gift card is going to have an ID, and also a gift card is going to have an amount. So let me see. Let's create a gift card, annotate with aggregate. So annotate the class with aggregates. Aggregate, fine. Create a private member variable ID, which is going to be string. So the ID is going to be string and not integer. Also annotate this with aggregate identifier. So in this case, an aggregate identifier is simply like the ID of the class or ID of this aggregate. A gift card has an ID. Okay, so we have ID, that is fine. Okay, so let's see. Now we have this gift card, that is fine. We now have to add the command handlers. Basically, when a gift card is created, is a command. Create a new gift card means issue a new gift card. So this is a constructor in a normal MVC application, but here we call it a command. It has to be issued when a gift card is created. That is an issue command. So we are going to specify a command handler. So command handler, and it's going to be public. Step 1, copy and paste, but I'm not going to copy and paste. I'm going to simply write it out. So we are creating a new gift card, like issue a new gift card. So issue a new gift card. When this happens, we are going to handle it by calling on the issue command. So I'm going to issue. So it takes an issue command. So when a gift card is created, you can actually check that the amount is not going to be 0. So I'm going to say if cmd.getAmount is, if it's less than or equal to 0, if it's less than or equal to 0, I'm going to just throw new illegal argument exception and say amount is less than or equal to, amount must be greater than 0. So that is it. So once this amount is less than 0 or equal to 0, then it's not going to work. You're going to throw an exception. And then else you simply apply a new event. So I'm going to say apply. Sometimes it takes some effort to get your head around all this. So for me, I'm still working it out. But for now, make sure you follow the procedure to the end. After now, we do something else. If you do it a couple of times, you kind of start thinking in terms of CQRS and event sourcing. For now, it may be vague for you, but don't give up. Just continue to do it. Apply a new issued event, and it's going to be cmd.id and cmd.amount. Okay. So this create more actions. So I'm going to import static method. Okay, so this comes from aggregate lifecycle that apply. So this is about creating a new gift card, and we've issue call the issue command. So I'm going to have another command handler. This is redeemed to handle the redeem event, or to issue a redeem event, a redeem command. So I'm going to say public void handle redeem command cmd. So command handlers always have the name handle, okay, except for the constructor, or for the command that corresponds to the constructor. And I'm gonna go here. All right, so when you are redeeming a gift card, you must redeem an amount that is less than or equal to what you have in the gift card, right? So I'm going to check that if cmd dot get amount is less than or equal to 0, okay, if cmd dot the amount you are trying to redeem, if it's less than 0 or equal to 0, then you cannot redeem nothing. So I'm going to say throw new illegal argument exception amount must be greater than 0, actually. So also the amount in the gift you are trying to redeem must be less than the amount in the gift card, because you can't redeem something more than the amount in the gift card. So I'm going to say if cmd dot get amount is greater than the balance, if it's greater than the balance, and I'm also going to throw new illegal argument exception amount must be greater than balance. So I'm going to kind of make some room here as well. Okay, so let me just kind of increase the font of this. So I'm going to just go to settings and increase the font maybe to something bigger. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but I think it's necessary I increase the font. So I'm going to go to editor, go to font, and I'm going to change to, I don't know, maybe it's 18 should be fine. Let me apply it and see. Okay, so 18 is fine, or is it too big? So let me know maybe. So balance is not there, so I'm going to create a new variable, a new field balance in gift card. So I have this balance created right here. Again, that is the concept of CQRS. You only add the attributes that affect the commands, so you don't add all the attributes to the aggregate. So I'm going to save everything. All right, so what else? So let's just scroll down. So now we need events. So I'm going to go to add event sourcing handler, not event handler. So event sourcing handler is triggered when an event occurs. So an event sourcing handler is an event executed when an event occurs. It's different from the event handler. So when an issued event occurs, what do we do? I'm going to say public. So event sourcing handlers have the name on. They are methods with the name on. So public void on issued event evt. Okay, so this is what we have. So I'm going to set the amount when an issued event occurs. I'm going to set the amount, the balance to the amount, because the balance is the same as the amount when an event and a gift card is issued. So I'm going to say id is equal to evt dot get id, and the amount balance is equal to evt dot get amount. All right, so this is what happens for event sourcing handler, and I'm going to add for redeem the event. So I'm going to say public void on redeemed event. Alright, so I'm going to say, so when a gift card is redeemed, you're actually going to reduce the balance. So I'm going to say ID. In this case, we don't need to specify the ID, we simply reduce the balance. So I'm going to say balance is equal to balance minus EVT dot get. Okay, I'm actually going to specify EVT dot get balance, get amount. Okay, get amount redeemed. Okay, so we reduce the balance when an event is, when a gift card is redeemed. Alright, so we've completed writing the event handlers. I hope everything is fine. So if the command, if the amount is greater than balance, that is fine. Gift card, if the amount is less than or equal to 0. Okay, so I'm going to save everything and I'm going to just go to the next part. Part 3 says we are now going to be building the GUI using Vardin. Okay, this is a fun part because before now there are a whole lot of people that are not very good with Vardin, but I tell you this is really fun. So there is a starting point. We are going to build the GUI. I've made a sketch of the GUI. You have two panels, the issue panel and the redeem panel, and you are going to it will contain forms. So when you enter the ID and the amount, you click on submit and a gift card is issued, and that's all. So we have this. Make sure that the Vardin version in your pom.xml is 8.4.1, and that we've already done. And at this point I'm going to go to the GUI and say new class, and I'm going to call it gift card GUI, and I'm going to say okay. So this card is going to extend Vardin's UI. So I'm going to extend UI. Okay, so this is fine, and it's going to be annotate this class with at Spring UI. Spring UI. That's fine. So we are going to generate, implement the methods that are required for this class. So I'm going to say implement methods. So we have the init method and just implement it. You can see you have the init method. Now we need to add a command gateway. So basically, if you have a UI for CQRS, whatever is going from the UI have to pass through the command gateway if it's a command, and it's going to be passing through the query gateways if it's a query. Okay, so we are going to be adding a private final variable to the class of type command gateway. So I'm going to say private command gateway. Okay, this is fine. Below it, okay, so private command gateway. Below it, type the code. You can also click add constructor parameter, so you can see add constructor parameter, and this is fine. Okay, I think we missed out something. Please forgive me. Let's just go back to the gift card. We need to add an empty constructor here. So I'm going to simply right click and say generate, and just say generate constructor. Don't select anything and just generate an empty constructor. This is required by Axon. So going back to the UI, so we have this the gift card GUI. Now we have a command gateway. So we need to create the two panels, the issue panel and the redeem panel. So I'd like to go down here, create these two panels I showed you before now. So I'm going to say private panel, issue panel. Okay, so this is going to return for us an issue panel, or it's simply a panel. A panel is a UI component. So why do we have this? Import class, that's fine. com.vardin.ui, that's where the panel is coming from. So in this panel, we need a text field to enter the ID, another text field to enter the amount, and also a submit button. So I'm going to create them. Text field ID is equal to new text field, and caption is going to be ID, and we also need another text field. Amount is equal to new text field, and the caption is amount. Okay, so let me just use this. Alright, so and we need a button submit is equal to new button submit. Okay, so we have these three items as I showed you, because if you scroll up you're actually gonna see we have three items: ID, mount, and submit. All right, so why do we have this? Okay, we've not returned anything. Okay, fine. Let's scroll down and see. So when you click on this button, you want something to happen. So we are going to add a click listener to this button. So I'm going to kind of make room here. So I'm going to say button, submit dot add click listener. Now this is very important. So I'm going to say event. I'm going to add an event that is going to be executed when this button is clicked. Okay. So when this button is clicked, we need to create a new issued command and pass it through the gateway onto the back end to the framework. So I'm going to say issue command. I'm going to create a new issued command. Issue command cmd is equal to new issue command. So this new issue command will require two items, the ID and the amount to be used to issue. So the ID comes from ID dot get value. Okay, the value of the ID ID field, text field, and we also have amount dot get value. But now this amount dot get value comes as a string, but it has to be an integer. So we have to solve this problem. Let me see if it can give us integer dot pass int. Okay, so I'm going to simply write it myself. Let me just convert it to integer dot pass int, and that is fine. Okay. Yeah, so put this right here. Okay, so I'm gonna just close this up. Let me see, am I missing anything? Okay, so we've created our issue command, and we are going to now pass this command into the gateway by saying command gateway dot send and wait. You can actually do async or async. So send and wait is actually async, so we be on the safe side. I'm going to just do it send and wait, so we have something trade safe. Send and wait, and I'm going to give it the command we created. Alright, so this is what happens. So we pass it through the gateway, and that is all we need to do. So once this command executes, and we are going to give a notification that it successfully executes. So I'm going to say notification dot show, and I'm going to say successfully issued. Okay, so and we need the message type is going to be notification type dot humanize message. So I think I can get it from here. Okay, perfect. Okay, so so this is fine. Why do we have this spectates? Okay, so I think let's see, why do we have this error? I don't need these. Okay, I also don't need one of these. Okay, so everything should be fine. So we have submit button clicked, it generates a command and send it to the gateway. Now we need to add the controls onto a form. So we need to create a form and add these three controls onto the form, because just like HTML form, Vaadin requires sending controls through a form. So I'm going to say form layout form is equal to new form layout, and I'm going to create to set the margin to form dot set margin true, and form dot add component. So we are going to add all these controls: the ID, the amount, and the submit button. So we're going to add all of them to the form, And then we are going to add this form onto the panel. So I'm going to say panel. So I'm going to create a panel first. Panel. Sorry, it's getting confused here. Panel is equal to new panel. And the caption of this panel is going to be issue panel. Okay. So this is a panel we are going to be using for the issue command. So I showed you the sketch before. Now you can scroll up and look at it. And I'm going to say panel dot set content. I'm going to add this form to the panel. Okay, that's fine. And I'm simply going to return the panel. So return panel. So we have our panel now that we can actually put on the UI. Okay. So let's do the same. Let's just create a second panel that's going to represent the redeem panel. So I'm going to just go here, and this is going to be redeem panel, and the same thing, almost about the same thing, successfully redeemed. And this panel is going to be redeem panel, and it's going to be redeem panel. And the command we are going to be creating here is going to be redeem command, and it's going to be redeem command. All right. So this is fairly clear. I hope you follow. Redeem command cmd is equal to import class. Okay, so we have the two panels created for us. Everything is fine. So I need to adjust the content of the second panel, the redeem panel, so that we have it fine. We've done it. We've adjusted to be a redeem panel. Now we are going to add this panel onto the layout. So to do that, we are going to add this panel onto the layout in the init method of this UI. So in the init method of this UI, I'm going to simply define a layout that I want the UI to be, whether it's a horizontal or a vertical layout, and then add this panel. So these panels are specified horizontally, one beside the other. So it's a horizontal layout. So I'm going to say horizontal layout commands is equal to new horizontal layout. Okay, that's fine. And I'm going to set it to full to be full screen. Command dot set size full. Okay. And I'm going to add these two components onto the panel. So I'm going to say command dot set or dot add components issue panel and redeem panel. All right. So we have it now. All right. So we also will need a vertical layout, but I think we can get that. We can do that a little later. So we actually require to add an error handler. So I'd like to scroll to okay, so I'm going to simply add an error handler. So in case an error occurs, I'm going to say set error handler. So new default error handler, that's fine. New default error handler, it's going to be a function. So we are going to specify what's going to happen here. So I'm going to I'm going to override a method. So I'm going to override a method, and it's going to be error events. Okay. Okay, so we override the error event. So on error events, so it's going to be, I'm going to simply display the error message that occurs if any error message occurs. So I'm going to say throwable cause is equal to event.get cause, event.get throwable. So sometimes I don't remember exactly. So while there is a message, we are going to display, or where there's an error, we are going to display the message. So I'm going to say while cause while cause dot get cause is not null, and we are going to say cause equal to cost.getCost. Okay. So while it's not null, that is fine. So I'm going to display the error message by saying notification.show. So we are going to just display the error message by saying cost.getMessage, and it's going to be notification type.error, notification type.error. So I can just scroll down to look for it. Okay, so you can see it right here. Okay, fine. Alright, so I think everything should be fine. Let's see, treble get cost, error message is fine. So we can now test the application and proceed to move on. So before we can test our application, we need to add a configuration or a run configuration. So I'm going to click on here, add a run configuration, and click on this plus sign, choose Maven, and use Spring Boot run here, Spring Boot run, and just say apply. Before we launch it, maybe we can just build the project and apply and say okay. So at this point, I'm going to save everything and I'm going to run this application. So hopefully, I think we need to add a H2 database configuration, because we remember we are using H2 in our pom.xml. So to get the configuration for H2 database, just go to, what you simply do is go to your browser and type H2 database Kyneton the Genius, and it gets you H2 database Kyneton the Genius. It comes here. No. So H2 database Kyneton the Genius, I typed it wrongly, so like this. So it tells you Spring Boot H2 database right here, and then you can get the configuration here. Just copy the configuration from here, and you are going to put it in your application.properties file, which is under src main resources application properties, and just paste everything right here. Let's name this database GCDB. All right, that's the name of our database. I'm going to just save everything, save all, and now you can see it's trying to run, but actually, so we are going to stop it and rerun it, because I think it might actually not run. So I'm going to save everything and I'm going to relaunch the application again, relaunch. So while we are waiting for it to run, let's exit from here. So we are going to, okay, so let's just wait for it to run so that we actually see exactly how it works. So hopefully, so it started correctly. You can see Stormcast started on port 8080. Again, if we go back to the dashboard, you can see that the application have registered here. We have one instance of our application running right here. So if we now go to port 8080, HTTP, and go to localhost at port 8080, you'll see that we'll have our GUI. If everything goes perfectly well, we should have the GUI displayed right here. So for some reason it's not showing anything. Okay, so let's just go back to the gift card GUI. So let's scroll up. I think we missed out something right here. So we have so here we have commands that add. Okay, everything should be okay. Okay, so I know where we have the issue. We have to create a vertical layout and add the commands to it. So we are going to come here and say vertical layout layout. So we need a layout. A vertical layout is equal to new vertical layout, and the vertical layout is gonna be layout dot set size full and layout dot add components commands. So we are adding the horizontal layout we created onto the vertical layout, and we are going to simply set content. So this is what I missed out, layout. So set content is very, very important. So I'm going to just save everything, save all, and I'm going to just restart the application, stop and rerun. And then at this point, if we refresh, we should be able to see our application displayed. So while it's starting up, I'm going to actually move on to part 5. So let's see what we are going to expect in part 5. So in part 5, we are going to be what is this? So this part, we are going to be building the query module. We build a command module, we build the GUI, we are going to be building the query module. So I'm actually going to start immediately. So I'm going to go to the queries package and create a new file and call it API. So this is going to contain the query handlers. Okay. So so add a Kotlin file. This file will hold the entity that will be stored in the database. Inside this file, create a class named card summary. So I'm going to say data class card summary. Okay, so we have this card summary. I'm going to say val. I'm going to kind of look into the. So I'm actually going to, at this point, copy and paste. That's something I say I'll not do, but for now I just did it. So just imports. It's going to be from here. Okay, so this is going to represent our read model. So this basically is about the same as a gift card, but it's stored in the read model. So when you want to read and get and query the data to get the state of the gift card, what you get is a summary. But when you are trying to send commands, you are actually sending using the gift card. Alright, so far so good. And if we go back now and I refresh, you can see that we should have our GUI displayed perfectly, and that is okay. So we do need a data provider. So let's see. So we will have to create a data provider in the gift card GUI. So because we are using the same GUI both for queries and for commands. So let me go back to the gift card GUI. So the instruction says create a final private variable of type data provider. So let me make some room here. I'm going to say private data provider. Okay, so do a constructor injection in the query gateway. Let me see. Point to the initial part of your gift card GUI. So here we need add a constructor parameter, and this is fine. So this data provider is actually going to be targeting card summary and void. Okay. So data provider, that is fine. So we have what we should have here is both the command gateway and the query gateway. So I'm going to say query gateway, and this data provider is equal to data provider, and you specify the query gateway for this data provider. Okay, so this is fine, no problem. So we are going to place our cursor on the code or squiggly line right here, and we are going to choose create method data provider in giftcard GUI. Perfect. So this is what you should do. Now we are going to make this method return new abstract backend data provider. So I'm going to say return new abstract backend data provider. So once you do this, we have two methods overriding. One of them is fetch from backend. We have cite in backend. That is fine. All right. So we now need to implement these methods. Before we implement these methods, we need to create a data query and a size query in the API file. So in the queries, we need a data query and a size query. So we are going to open this API file, and we need to create two data classes. So one of them, two classes. One is a data class, and it's going to be data query. We need offset and limits. Offset is going to be integer, and val limit. Val limit is going to be integer as well. All right. So okay, so there is one of the data class, and the second one is class size. So basically, these classes are going to return the size of the number of items fetched as an integer, and also list of cat summaries coming from the repository. So we are going to go back to the GUI. So we are going to be writing the first query, and this is a query that is going to return a list of cat summaries, and we are going to be using the query method of the query gateway. So remember, if you are writing a query, or if you are passing a query to Axon Framework, it's going to be passing through the query gateway. So you're going to say query gateway dot query. Okay, so now we are going to now talk about this query. This query that is a method of the query gateway requires two parameters, the data query and the response type. So two parameters, I'm going to write it as a comment, two parameters, the data query and the response type. Okay, so the data query, we are going to simply use the data query we wrote just before now. So I'm going to just say new. Maybe I'm going to start on a new line. So I'm going to say new data query. I remember that this data query requires two parameters. As you remember, if we go back to the queries.api, so you can see that data query requires two parameters, the offset and the limit. So we are going to specify two parameters. I'd like to do a clean code by making it in a new line as well. So I'm going to say query dot get offset and query dot get limit, query dot get offset and query dot get limit. So this is the data query, we've written it. So I'm going to just close up this. So the second parameter I told you that is required by the query method of the query gateway is a response type you want this gateway to return. So in this case, we want multiple instances of cat summary, and that is the language of Axon Framework. So this is basically a list of cat summaries. So you are going to say response type that multiple instances of cat summary dot class, and then we are going to combine everything together. Dot join dot stream. So at this point we have let's see, so this is actually should have been at the other side. So I'm going to just put the semicolon here and we are done. So at this point we have the query gateway giving a query to the query gateway takes a data query and the response type, and the data query takes 2 parameters as well. So basically this kind of limits the number of items you return, so you are not doing find all or return all. So the second method, which is size in backend, we are going to simply return the count of the number of items returned. So this will be a bit easier. So I'm going to say return. Again, we are passing the query through the query gateway. Query gateway dot query as well, dot query, and in this case we I don't think we need any parameter. Okay, query requires 2 parameters, I say. So in this case we have new size query. Remember we wrote size query before now, and we also need the response type, and the response type is going to be just one single instance, so that we have instance of an integer dot class. Okay, so we have our query returned. Why do we have this error? I think we actually need dot join. Okay, perfect. So we have the queries has been written, and this returns a list of items. This returns a count of the number of items returned. Alright, so this is the complete code right here. Please do it by yourself. Remember, initially it becomes a little bit difficult, but as you do it a number of times, don't give up, you get a hang of it. That is the way we have to learn at this time. So this is a brief review of what we've done. I'll recommend you do it, you try to go through it by yourself. So I'm going to move to the next step, which is build the summary projection. So the summary projection is simply, we are going to create, it will be part of the query package, and it will simply be a component that returns the items, the list of items, or the queries coming from the backend. So it will be responsible for handling persistence. Okay, I'm giving a wrong definition. So basically, this component we are going to be writing, the summary projection is going to handling persistence, basically communicating with the database backend. Alright, so I'm going to create a Java class in the query package and name it summary projection. So I'm going to go to the query package, the queries package, and create a new Java class, and I'm going to name it summary projection. So basically, the summary projection handles persistence, and it's going to be at components. So it can serve as a Spring Bean and can be injected when it's needed. And it's going to have entity manager for sure. That is something we have to use because we are doing persistence to the data to the data store. So we actually need entity manager. So I'm going to say entity manager private final entity manager. All right, so now we need to add a constructor parameter. So I'm going to just put my cursor here and just say add constructor parameter, and we have it right here. Okay, that is fine. Step 5 says create event handlers for issued event and redeemed events. Now these are event handlers, not event sourcing handlers. These actually are the events that will write the data into the database when this event occurs. So there are 4 event handlers, 2 event handlers and 2 query handlers. Okay, so I'm going to say at event handler, and this is going to handle the issued event, public void handle issued event evt. Okay, so this is what we have here, and I have at event handler public void handle redeemed event evt as well. Alright, so this is what we have right here. So we're also going to write query handlers to handle the data query and the size query. So I'm going to write at query handler a list of cat summaries. Okay, so handle data query query. All right. Let me see. So okay, we have a typo right here. Sorry for this. So we import this class. That is fine. And the next query handler is going to be the next query handler is going to be for, I think I'm mixing up something. Is going to be for the size query, so it's going to be public integer handle size query. Okay, so this actually handles incoming query, and this is handling outgoing query to the backend or to the repository. So let's handle this one. For the issued event, we are going to persist a new, for issued event, we are going to persist a new cat summary item. Simply going to use entity manager.persist, and we are simply going to persist a new cat summary. So we need the ID and the amount. Okay, so, and we also need the balance, which is the same for a new card being issued. The balance is the same as the amount. So this should be also get amount. All right, so this should be fine. Okay, so this is fine. So the next thing I would like to do, I would have loved to clean this up. So let me just shift this one down to make the code a bit cleaner. All right, so new cat summary takes 3 parameters, and actually this also goes down. Okay, so that makes sense. We're also going to write for the redeemed event. For the redeemed event, you simply are going to reduce the balance by the amount. So let's see. So we're going to first search and find or retrieve the cat summary based on the event, and then we go ahead to set the balance to a balance where we have subtracted the amount. So I'm going to say cat summary is equal to a entity manager.find. So we are going to retrieve this card and then set the balance ebt.getID. Okay, so we have this cat summary retrieved. Why do we have this error? Cannot resolve cat summary. Okay, so we need okay, cat summary as class. Okay, so we find the cat summary based on the ID, and then we are going to set the remaining balance by saying summary.set the remaining balance. Okay, and we are going to say summary. Let me just summary.set with the summary.set remaining balance, summary.get remaining balance minus the amount. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so this is what we do. I think this should be okay. Now this event tracking, you can actually do without it, but I'm going to actually add it. We need to configure event tracking processor. Sometimes it's not compulsory, but I'm actually going to add it. It can be useful sometimes for you to get some insight on what is happening. So I'm going to import this class, and I'm also going to import class as well. So for the lists query handler, we've written the event handlers. Now we want to write the query handlers to return the list of items. So we are going to simply use the entity manager's create query static method. So I'm going to say return entity manager.create query. Okay, so you simply specify the query the query you want to execute and the return type you want. So I'm going to say select. All right, so it's normal SQL query, select C from cat summary C select C from cat summary C. So we are selecting everything for now, and we specify the type. Okay, so these are query, and then we need the return type. Get. Let's just get it right. So we have create query takes these, and okay, so simply get converted to a list of items. All right. Okay, so this is what we have. Select C from cat summary C. Okay, so get result list. I'm actually going to put the semicolon right here. I'm also going to close. So this encloses this. So we actually will have to take out. Okay, so let's give it a chance. Okay. So we do the same thing here. This time we write a query that returns a count. So I'm going to return entity manager dot create query, and in this case we are going to say select count count from cat summary C. Select count C from cat summary C. All right, and we also need the return type dot get single result dot get single result, and we are converting to integer by saying dot int value. So get single result dot int value. Okay, so permit me to just shift this down so we can see what is happening. Entity manager dot create query. We have select count from cat summary, and I was gonna say long dot class. Okay. Then we have dot get single results, and we need the int value dot int value, and that is fine. So we have our summary projection set up. The summary projection will handle persisting, actually creating this query through using the entity manager and querying the repository and returning this result. You can now run the application, and that is fine. I'll allow you to do this, but I'm not going to do it to save time. So just to review, I'm putting the complete code right here. There is a complete code in case you have some problems you are facing. So at this point, I'm going to move to part 7. Let's now display the data on a grid view. That's a fun part because this has to do with Vardin. So in this case, we are going to display a grid view in the GUI. So we are going to open the GUI. I'm going to open this GUI by closing other tabs. So we have our GUI. We have the two panels displayed on the GUI, and now we are going to be creating a method to return a grid view, and then we are going to display this grid view on the GUI. So I'm going to write this method right here to return a grid view. So I'm going to say private grid, let's call it summary grid. Okay, so I'm going to kind of scroll down so that I don't make any mistake. Create a method named summary grid returns grid of cat summary. So the grid will be a grid of cat summary. Okay, so and we are going to be adding 3 columns to this grid. So I'm going to say first we are going to create a new cat summary grid, So I'm going to say summary cut some. Oh, sorry, I think I'm mixing up everything. So I'm going to say, so let's just take out this. Sometimes this can be difficult. So I'm going to say grid cut summary summary grid is equal to new grid cut summary. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is where we are. We have created a grid. Now we are going to add columns to the grid. So I'm going to say grid. Okay, seems I'll just give it a name different from the name of the function. So let me give it a name grid. All right. So I'm going to say grid dot add column, and it's going to be the cut summary ID, and I'm going to say the set caption is going to be the ID, like the header of the grid of that column. I'm going to add initial balance and remaining balance as well. That add column cut summary dot cut summary initial balance. It's going to be get initial balance, and I'm going to say set the caption to initial balance, and finally grid dot add column. In this case, cut summary get remaining balance dot set caption remaining balance. All right, so we have our grid view now containing the three captions, as you can see here. So we now need to set the data provider for this grid view. So I'm going to say grid set data provider and I'm going to simply return this grid. All right, return grid. Okay, so we have our grid view now. We are going to now add this grid view to the GUI, to the layout. So we are going to go to the init method where we are preparing our layout. So this grid view now, we can add it to the layouts, right? So we have this layout here containing commands containing two panels. So we're going to add it just here so that it lays it out under the commands. So I'm going to say summary grid. That was the name of the grid again. Let's just go down to check. The name is summary grid. All right, summary grid. All right, so we have the grid view now added to the layout. So now we also need to refresh the grid after changes have occurred. We need to refresh the grid. So basically, when we issue a card, we want these changes to be reflected on the grid. To refresh the grid view, to have that changes immediately reflected. Okay, so actually I'm jumping all the way to the end right here. I already did all this. So let's go to where we have the success message. So anytime like we have a command is executed, it shows a notification, and I'm going to just refresh the grid view by saying dot add closed listener, and the closed listener is simply going to be data provider dot refresh all. Okay, that is fine. So I think I should make a little bit of room here. So again, we need to add it here as well, where we have another notification. Add closed listener x data provider dot refresh all, and that is fine. And for the last time, we are going to refresh it right here. So I'm going to say that close listener X goes by data provider dot refresh all. Great. Okay, so once we issue a new card, we're going to refresh the grid view to show the items in the grid view. Once we redeem a card, we refresh the grid view as well. So I'm going to kind of save all, and I'm going to start up my Axon server by going to my command prompt. I'm going to open my command prompt in administrative mode. And I'm going to simply navigate to my Axon server installation. So I'm going to say cdd Axon server / Axon server 4.2.2.2. I think this is where it is. So I'm going to say java -jar Axon server.jar. So this is going to unable to access Axon server. So I'm going to just do a dir to check if I'm in the right directory. Say Axon server.jar, Axon server. So there's a typo, so it should be Axon server right here. Okay, great. So it's going to start up the Axon server so that we'll be able to see the GUI. So I'm going to run this app by first saving everything, save all, and I'm going to just run the app. So while it's starting up, this is what is going on. Now, let me just show you the next steps. Now we have our application, of course, it's monolith. The next thing we want to do in part 6, part 8, we are going to set up the Spring profile. More like we are going to convert this application to microservices by splitting it up into 3 microservices. We have the microservices corresponding to each of the packages, and this we are going to be doing using Spring profile, and that is explained in lesson 8. Now, I'd like to say that this part 8, I'll recommend you do it by yourself. I'm actually going to end this tutorial here, and in the second part, basically I'm going to be checking how you've succeeded in creating this part, this Spring profile to set up the microservices. Alright, so remember, if you've not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Let's now look at the Axon server to see. So I'm going to go to http so it's going to be localhost at port 8 localhost at port 8024 if I'm not mistaken. And if the Axon server starts up, we are going to be seeing the dashboard, and if we go to overview, if our application starts up as well, we are going to be seeing the instance of this application popping up here. So let's just give a second. So let's see. I'd also like to mention that if you have any challenges, feel free to reach me by leaving me a comment below. Tell me what your challenges are. Okay, so let's see what happens here. I'll just shift these upwards and make some room. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so you can see that the instance popped up right here. Let me just check my application, the properties, to see. Okay, so we are going to run this application at port 8080. So I'm going to say http localhost at port 8080 UI showing up together with the grid view. So it says cat summary select count C from cat summary C. So I'll tell you where this problem is coming from. It simply means that the entity manager is not able to recognize the cat summary class as an entity. So I'm going to check the cat summary class to see if it's annotated with that entity annotation. So here in Queries API, you can see that the cat summary class is not annotated with entity annotation. So I'm simply going to add the entity annotation right here, and that solves the problem. So this comes from java.persistence, and I'm going to save all, and then I'm going to run this application, and you find out that everything works perfectly. So I'm going to click on run. So we are going back to check to see if everything goes perfectly well, and hopefully it should work. And we are going to test the application right now. So we are waiting for it to start up, and then we're also going to refresh here and see what happens. So let's see. So for now, it's starting up. Okay, so we should be able to see yeah, you can see it comes out. So I'm going to refresh this page, Control F5. There's something missing in this grid view, so let me just correct it. Going back here to the GUI, going down to the grid, I think I should annotate with something. Let me see. I need to set the size to full, so I'm going to simply say grid.set size full. Okay, so I'm going to stop it and save everything, and then I'm going to run it again to see. Meanwhile, I think everything should be fine, because even if I take it, run it at this point, it's still going to work. But let's just make sure everything is okay, because we are doing a demo. Again, all the procedure is there on my website, so feel free to bookmark the website, the page, and then you can try it out yourself, and then come back to this video to see if you miss out a thing. So right, so let's just refresh this page. Refresh. Okay, perfect. So if I issue some new gift card, let's say Layla, I'm giving 1,100 unit, and I submit. Let's see. So something tends not to be right. So let's get back here. Okay, so we have an error that says caused by unavailable keep alive connection gone. Error while reading event from server. Caused by keep alive failed. Okay, so let's check here. Okay, so this is where the problem is coming from. So the Axon server kind of went into, okay, going to just come back here. No handler found for size query. Okay, so let's go back to size query. It should be somewhere here, size query. So we have data query, have size query. Okay, so I think it should be fine at this point. Okay, so let's just stop and rerun it again. Okay, so you can see that it worked correctly, and I can issue another one, magazine 1000 submit, and I can also go ahead to redeem for magazine, redeem 10. You can see successfully redeemed, and should actually have reduced the balance, but it did not. So we can actually go to solve it by going to the commands. So if we go to the when you have command handler, so you have this command handler, it didn't apply the event. So this is really a very big mistake I just made. So I'm going to simply say apply new redeem the events, cmd dot get id and cmd dot get amount. Okay, so this solves the problem. So this is where the problem is coming from. So I'm going to save everything, and I'm actually going to stop here. I'll allow you to now test out this by yourself. So we are not actually done completely, but I would like to recommend try to do the Spring profile, which is part 7 or 8, and then if you have any challenges, let me know. Maybe we can do some step by step that in a different project that we are going to be working on. So let me just show you the next project that we are going to be working on. You can see this project. I actually set it up recently. So in this case, we have this. That is fine. So in this case, we are working on a A food cut, yeah, so I remember. So we are working on a food cut. So we are going to make the video as well. So the more we do it, the more it becomes clearer to us. I remain Kindson, the Tech Pro, and I'm always there for you.